welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at someone who often seems a bit overshadowed in American history, William Howard Taft.
Yeah, you hear his name maybe linked with Teddy Roosevelt, or you know about his later career.
Exactly. But the sources we've looked at, they hint at something more complex, maybe an unseen side to his presidency.
That's right. We've been diving into a video, The Hidden Taft, an unseen presidency, and also accounts from places like the White House Historical Association and the Miller Center.
And they really do challenge that standard picture, don't they?
They absolutely do. They push you to look past the usual story.
So that's our goal here, to use these sources to unpack those hidden bits, the pressures he was under that maybe aren't obvious, and, the quiet achievements too.
Trying to understand the man himself beyond the labels.
And see what these accounts really tell us about those 4 years, the subtle stuff.
Okay, so let's start with how he even got there. It wasn't your typical run for president.
No, he was basically handpicked by Theodore Roosevelt.
Right. TR saw him as the perfect guy to carry on the progressive reforms he'd started.
But you can immediately see the problem there, can't you? It creates this really difficult dynamic from day one.
Was he just Roosevelt's continuation? Or did he have his own ideas, maybe hidden under TR's? Well, huge shadow.
And the sources paint this picture of him. Definitely smart, a great administrator. His time in the Philippines proved that.
Absolutely. Distinguished jurist, effective manager.
But politically, the sources are pretty blunt. They call him a poor politician.
Yeah.
Someone who just didn't like the whole campaigning game.
Even though he did promise, to stick to Roosevelt's program.
Yeah, he pledged loyalty, which is maybe why William Jennings Bryan, who ran against him, said that thing about running against two Tafts.
Yeah. A progressive Taft out west and a conservative one back east.
It really shows how he was being pulled, or maybe trying to be everything to everyone.
Which leads right into how different his actual methods were from Roosevelt's. That's a key point in the sources.
Definitely. TR wasn't afraid to stretch presidential powers. Taft fundamentally disagreed.
Right. There's a quote where Taft says Roosevelt ought more often to have admitted the legal way of reaching the same ends.
That legalistic approach, it seems central to understanding him.
Absolutely. He was a lawyer, a judge, through and through. And that respect for the strict letter of the law, well, it really shaped his presidency.
You see it clearly in his big foreign policy idea, dollar diplomacy.
Exactly. On the surface, it's about using American money investments, loans, to boost business interests overseas.
Especially like Latin America and Asia.
But the sources we looked at, they pose this question. Was it just about economics?
Or was it something more calculated, a kind of unseen strategy?
Using financial leverage to expand American power, playing a sort of a quiet game on the world stage.
That adds a different dimension, doesn't it? More strategic than maybe we give him credit for.
And speaking of hidden depths, or maybe just overlooked facts, trust busting.
Right. TR gets all the credit, the
Right.
trust buster.
But get this, the sources point out Taft actually launched more antitrust suits than Roosevelt.
Significantly more. One source said over 80.
Yeah, it's a surprising number, but his style was totally different.
Systematic, quiet, through the courts.
Not the big public fights Roosevelt seemed to relish.
So was it just a quieter, maybe more effective way to do it? Or did it signal something else?
Like a different philosophy. Regulating through complex legal steps rather than headline-grabbing confrontations.
It makes you think maybe his effectiveness got lost because it wasn't as, dramatic.
And it's true, despite all the political fighting, the sources stress his administration did get things done legislatively.
Things that often got drowned out by, as one source puts it, the angry progressive onslaught.
Right. Beyond the antitrust suits, think about the big constitutional amendments submitted under him.
The 16th for income tax, the 17th for direct election of senators. Huge progressive wins.
Plus, establishing the postal savings system, giving the Interstate Commerce Commission power to set railroad rates.
These were real achievements, concrete results.
Often forgotten, though, because the political story was so dominated by conflict.
And maybe the biggest conflict, the one that really hurt him, was the Bellinger-Pinchot affair.
Oh, yeah. That was a nasty fight. All about conservation policy.
Gifford Pinchot, Roosevelt's guy, head of the Forest Service.
Accused Taft's Interior Secretary Bellinger of basically selling out Roosevelt's conservation efforts to big business.
And Taft backed his guy, Bellinger. Sided with him against Pinchot.
Which just infuriated the progressives even more, deepened that split in the party.
Was it just personalities clashing? Or did it show, like, deeper cracks within the whole progressive idea?
Unseen fault lines, maybe, between different factions who used to be allies.
It's definitely pushed Taft and Roosevelt further apart.
Which leads us almost inevitably to that really painful split in 1912.
Yeah, the sources are clear. Republicans renominate Taft. Roosevelt feels betrayed.
Bolts from the party. Starts the progressive, the Bull Moose Party.
Splitting the Republican vote, creating a three-way race.
With Woodrow Wilson, the Democrat, which basically handed Wilson the election.
A disastrous result for Taft, politically speaking. That's how the sources describe it.
Absolutely devastating for him, personally and politically. But, you know, the sources also make you pause and think.
Beyond the personal feud.
Yeah. Could that disastrous split have actually served some larger, maybe unseen political purpose?
Like inadvertently clearing the decks for Wilson and a whole new political era.
It's a possibility, right? Sometimes failures pave the way for something completely different.
That's a fascinating thought. So after all that turbulence, Taft leaves office, teaches law at Yale.
But here's the thing the sources really emphasize, maybe the hidden truth about his whole life's path.
The presidency wasn't the ultimate goal for him.
No, not at all. His lifelong ambition, the thing he truly wanted, was a seat on the Supreme Court.
And he got it. 1921, President Harding appoints him Chief Justice,
A role he apparently loved, held until just before he died.
making him the only person ever to hold both jobs, President and Chief Justice.
And the sources suggest that going back to law, it sort of revealed where his heart truly was.
He even said it was his greatest honor. And that famous line,
I don't remember that I ever was president.
wow. I mean, what do you make of that? A quiet dig at the political world?
Maybe. Or just honest relief. Finally doing the thing he felt truly called to do, the thing the presidency maybe couldn't give him.
It really reframes his whole story, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So looking back at this whole deep dive, Taft really is kind of an enduring riddle.
Defined by others, caught between factions, wrestling with his own nature.
But his quiet influence, his unseen struggles, they definitely shaped the time.
Yeah, the picture that emerges is, well, complex, brilliant legal mind, capable administrator.
But just not cut out for the political battlefield.
Right. And his real successes often got buried under the noise and the fights. Yet at the end of the day, he achieved his own personal goal, didn't he? Just not in the White House.
So, thinking about all this, why is digging into this hidden Taft matter for you, listening now?
What can his story teach us? About leadership. About personal ambition versus public duty.
Or just the difficulty of navigating what everyone expects of you while trying to follow your own path.
It's a really good reminder, isn't it, that the biggest spotlight doesn't always shine on the place where true influence or even just personal satisfaction is found.
Yeah. Considering how much Taft preferred law, his quiet wins as administrator, how content he seemed as Chief Justice.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other unseen burdens or quiet victories are we missing in history? Are there other figures whose real stories lie outside the roles we remember them for? What gets overlooked when we only focus on the loudest noise?